What's up, guys? What's going on? I'm Paul. This is Pauline Theology's Daily Devotional with Trust in Jesus Ministries. We're in Genesis, and we are completing the end of a saga. We are at the end of, technically, we are not at the end of Isaac, at the end of Jacob and his sons, but according to the writer of the book of Genesis, we have completed this section of the history of Jacob. So we are moving on to the sons. Now we're going to still have Jacob in there, of course, and we'll read all that stuff later, but we are at the end of like the Jacob saga because we are finishing with his father Isaac. So if you haven't checked it out, go ahead and read 35, 21 through 29 in Genesis and stop the tape, check it out, see what it has to say. If you have read it, then we're going to go ahead and jump into it, man. And the question number one that we ask is, what's going on? What's happening in the story? Well, it tells us that Jacob sojourns. He leaves and he goes to the land of Memrar, and then it gives like a little side thing here, saying that Reuben, who's his firstborn, sleeps with Bilhah, which is his Jacob's concubine. And then it just moves on. And then it's like, and the sons of Israel are. So I'm assuming, and I know this to be true, that what the author is doing is setting up the reader to see that there's going to be something going on. Now, there could be more in the background with this. People have made assumptions and made a hypothesis that because of how in that time of day for a person to sleep with the concubines and the wives of the leader in that position, it means that they're usurping his authority or taking ownership or leadership because of the story that took place in the last episode we were talking about. Not episode, but the last kind of thing that happened in the scriptures where where Dinah was taken advantage of, was raped, and then Isaac or Jacob didn't do anything. And so, and Levi and his brother did do something that they Simeon and Levi stood up and did something. And so they may have like prominence in the family. And so what Reuben is doing is trying to usurp the authority of his father, Jacob, to take the prominence in the family, since everybody may be looking at those two brothers as the leaders, and Reuben's the firstborn. So he wants to take lead. So some of that might be in that aspect to seduce that Bilhah and for that manner. But we don't have anything right now. We haven't read anything, so let's just not make anything assumptions. Let's just, that's understanding the culture and taking those things too. But it could have just been something he did. We're not sure. So it's just weird that they drop that in there and then they move on. So since they dropped that in there, we talk about it a little bit. Now let's move on. What's next is it goes in and talks about who the sons of Israel are, the sons of Jacob, and it names all of them, and it names them in the order of wives. So it names, I believe it names Leah, then Rebecca, and then Bilhah, and then the other woman. Dang, I forgot her name. But anyway, it names them that way instead of in the order of their birth. It names them in the order of their mothers. And then after that, we move on to the final piece. And this is how we know that the author is moving on to a different subject piece that that is separate from the Jacob saga, is that he ends the way that he ends all of his sagas, with the death of the patriarch, or with the death of the patriarch, the death of the fathers. And so this one has Isaac. And it says that Esau and Jacob come together again and see each other for the burial of their father. It says he lived a ripe old age and was gathered to his fathers, Isaac was. And then, we have the closure of this section. So what is this saying about God? Well, I think it's saying it's faithful, that God is faithful. And we see that because we see that He is making the family to the promised land. He's taking them to the promised land. He's got them to where he is supposed to go. He is faithful in doing that. We see that Jacob and his sons are back in Canaan. They're back in Canaan. God is faithful. He's a promise keeper. And what do we see about man? I think we see that, excuse me, that we should be focused on our family. That family is important. We see here he names the sons, and that's all of the. It says the sons of Jacob. That's the family. But also it goes on to say that Esau and Jacob come together again for the burial of their father. This is important. They have mended and restored relations from earlier, but it's important for us to see that they came together for their father's burial. In the same way that Isaac and Ishmael came together for their father's burial, Abraham. So this is a thing that seems to be very important to the reader or the writer of Genesis, that the children and the sons of the one who is dying or deceased, that they bury him. And also Isaac is buried in the land of Canaan. That means he's resting in the place that God had promised him. And so that's an important. My mind went back to God being faithful, but yeah, that's an important aspect of God is allowing the things that He promised to His children to occur. I think it is also for us to find hope in the things that God has done for others, that we find that as inspiration for hope for us. I say that because the context in which the writer is reading or writing these things and the reader is reading them is that there's the people in the wilderness right now as Moses is telling these stories, because these stories are not only just written, but they're also spoken. They were passed on down and down verbally, and so they're remembering these stories, knowing that the sons of Israel who were born outside, because it says they were born to him in Pan Aram, but their Isaac is being buried in Canaan. And so those who were outside of the land can have a hope that they will be in the land to live the last of their days. I think that's something that the readers of the scripture can hold on to. And it's something that they probably held on to and read. It's probably something that they read and held on to when they were in the exile and in all of these situations where they were outside the land of promise that God had promised them. But they recognized the faithfulness of God. And so they knew that just as the sons of Jacob were born outside of the camp, that they would live and reside inside the land that God had given them or God had promised them. I think that's a hope that we can find out of the faithfulness of God to others. So how can we apply these truths to our lives? Well, it's one thing for us to recall the wonder of God in our own lives. And that's what we've been doing here for the past couple of episodes. Last week, we talked about how God is revealing himself, that there's something that he is showing us, and he has made himself known so emphatically, so tangibly, that it's impossible to deny. And then allowing that to bring us joy and trust in the one who's done that. But now, let us do this in the lives of others. Recall and see what God and how God has been moving in the lives of others. Take a look through the past of your life or what's going on in the present right now and see how God is working in someone's life, and then bring him glory for that. And then take another step further. Have you had somebody being praying for you right now? Is somebody actively praying for you because there's something occurring in your life, or is there something that's occurred in the past that someone has prayed for you about and it has come to it has been answered affirmatively? God has said yes to this. let them know. Let them know so they can celebrate with you. Sometimes we forget to do that. We ask for the prayer, but when the prayer gets answered with a yes, we forget to tell anybody about it. We're just happy that it occurred. But let's go and let's let others know the answered prayers in our life so that they can celebrate and glorify God. And that which has happened in our life could bring hope to them and have them trust in God just a tiny bit more because of it. Hey, I appreciate you guys for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.